the first thing I want to do is actually put in an eye screw at the top to hold it, for one, in my hand while I paint it in some areas, and then also it's something to put a string through or a piece of ribbon through to hang it as well. So the first thing I did was just create a small hole at the top with either a needle, a screw, a nail, or something like that to take the threads of this little tiny eye screw. They come in the packs of about 200 from any local hardware store, so I'll go ahead and spin that in. And what we're going to do is use all acrylic paints. There we go. And I want it facing that way. So it's not, you don't want it facing that way because that'll make it turn if you put a rope through it. But I want to face it that way. From here, we're going to use all acrylic paints, but we're not going to paint them and really lay on the paint. We're actually going to do a really washed out paint. So we can still see the wood through the paint when it goes on. That's the nice part about using acrylics. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get a little bit of water on my brush here, just your average brush, and I'm going to brush it down with water some. It's not entirely necessary. You can do this with the paint on it, but it's what I like to do. And when you're painting with acrylics, water makes the paint move, or any type of thinner will make the paint move if you're using oil-based. Essentially we're using paint thinner, but our paint thinner is water and when we're using acrylics. I'm just going to get the entire thing wet. So you can see how it changes color. And the next step, in one of my color cups, I'm going to use white. I'm going to brush the entire, from the hat all the way down and the ball, all white. And it's not going to be solid white, it's just going to be a brushed out white, like I said. So from there, adding a little white color, I'm going to take my brush, dip it into the paint, and just take a little bit of paint with it, not a whole lot. And we're going to brush that out. And you can still see the grain through it, all the way in, and it doesn't take much. Get a little more paint on here. And if you ever lay on the paint a little too heavy, you can just put a little more water on it and rinse it out. To a certain degree. Sometimes you run out of time and it dries too quickly. I'm going to go ahead and hold it up here. And being that I somewhat pre-soaked the wood with the water the first time around, even though I put it on heavy in some spots, it's soaking in. Just like that. I'm going to paint the hat a little bit brighter, a little more paint on the hat. I want to have a nice white rim on the hat. I'm going to go back with tan in a minute and do the face. And a little red on the nose. Actually, I want to get some of that off. To do the color of skin, I'm going to use a flesh tone tan. It's always really difficult to find the right color tan, but I'm going to mix it with a little bit of white and see how it goes. And I'm just going to brush in. And it's really laying on the paint kind of heavy. Remember how we did that cut mark right there? That gives us a nice paint line. I'm going to go a little bit darker with that tan color. It's really laying the paint on heavy, but that's okay. Just like that. The next step on the nose and the cheeks, and I'm going to add a tad bit of red, so I'm going to drop in probably just a drop or so into the color cup and pull off of that with some water. Just want a little bit. The old phrase goes, a dab will do you. In this case, it's very true. And it's going to get really pointed on there, and I'm going to dab right there in the cheek as well. I'm going to rinse out my brush and come back and smooth it out with some water. We just want the hint of the color there, not necessarily a big blob of color. And then add a little bit darker tan underneath the eyes to give it somewhat of a shadow. Add a little tan to the cup. It's probably way too much. And take a small liner brush and then just right in the eyes where we did that slit in the eye. Put a little color in there. Makes it a little bit darker. And rinse out that brush. The next step is I'm going to do the hat. I'm going to do this one in green. So I'm going to grab a green color, add some green, and I'm kind of avoiding the ball because I want to go over that with white. The other good part about using acrylic paints is they're all non-toxic and they don't stink. And that really blocks out the green color, so I'm going to take a rag and wipe off some of the excess and get back down to the green color. Just like that. You can see how it kind of leaked onto the bottom of the hat here. I'm going to wipe that off as well. I'm going to go back with white and repaint this area here and the ball in the hat. And then make that hat stand out. I got my red in my brush. Make sure your brush is clean. You can see how that really brightens up. And then I'm going to brush some white on the ball here. And what we're going to do also is, now that we put white on the rest of the wood, it's all kind of gray now and looks a little bit rough, so I'm going to take the white and go back over some spots and create some highlights. And brush them out so they're not so stark. I'll flip it over. More bright white spots. And that'll be it. And that's pretty much done. All you do is let it dry and you're good to go. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial on how to carve this simple Santa here, and I really enjoyed teaching it, and hope you prosper in all the things that you do, especially in wood carving. Thanks.